Hello, welcome to the 31st. How's it going? You're watching another PowerPoint presentation. So about a year ago, I made this video explaining that Cubone's skull is almost certainly another Cubone skull based on the way that it fits so perfectly around Cubone's head. Yet, for some reason, even to this day, I still get comments saying that, oh, it's very obviously a Charizard skull when I debunk that in the video. So, for those of you who still aren't clear on it, I'm going to take you through detail by detail why this skull that Cubone has is 100% not a Charizard skull. Point number one, the size. Here's a little very simple comparison of a Charizard and a Cubone. As you can see, Charizard is 5'7" and Cubone is 1'4". I've also added a handy little diagram, so this is the size of a Charizard, and this is what a Cubone looks like when compared to it. As you can see, one is much larger than the other. There is no way that Charizard's skull is going to fit on Cubone. It's probably like twice the size of a Cubone, just the skull alone. To really drive the point home, I decided to put them on top of each other in scale, so that you can really get a feel for how big Charizard's head is compared to Cubone and that skull he's wearing. Next, I have a whole bunch of points covering the anatomy of Charizard and Cubone to show you why it's definitely not a Charizard skull. So, here I have some 3D models of both Charizard and Cubone, and we can have a look at their different anatomies, just not in scale, just the different features of the skulls, so I can show you very simply why it's not a Charizard skull. Firstly, we'll look at the horns on the side and back of this skull. So as you can see on Cubone, these two little spikes are much shorter than Charizard's, but also crucially, they are at different angles. So you can see here that Charizard's are, like I said, much longer, not even just to mention the scale of it, but they come off the back end of the skull and point almost straight back. There's a slight little arc, but they're right on the back of the skull here, whereas in Cubone, they're actually on the sides. You can see the angle is very different. These ones pointing almost straight back, these ones very much pointing off at these sharp diagonals. This is probably like, I don't know, 10, 20 degrees, whereas this is a good 45-degree angle coming off the skull here. We also have their snouts. So in terms of, obviously, the length, Cubone's is going to be a lot smaller, but you can see there's a difference in the snout shape. So Cubone's snout here is much thinner, the width, compared to Charizard's. Charizard's has a much thicker, flatter snout. And you can see there's a big difference in the shape here, right? There's a big ridge where Charizard's nose is. Obviously, they have the similarities in terms of like the little bit of a sort of lipped hook at the end there, and then also these teeth. But you can quite clearly see that the teeth would be in a different spot. You can see on Charizard, they're right at the front here, whereas on Cubone's skull, they're very much on the sides, and they're also a different shape. These ones are much thinner, needle-like points, whereas these ones are thick and round, these sharp raptor-esque teeth here, these sort of claw teeth. Next is the nostrils. So very clearly on Cubone, these nostrils, as you can see here, on this skull, they're on the side, right? They're very much on the side of the skull, whereas Charizard, as you can see if I turn it round, they're very much on the front, right? There's a big difference between where the nostrils are. The size of them, obviously this could just be because it's with skin on. If you look at a human nose, the big nose hole is very different to the nostrils you have on your physical nose, but you can see how positioned they are at the front. Whereas these ones are very much on the side. They're in a totally different spot. And also you can see the different sort of head shape. Again, like I said, much longer snout with a little bit of a bridge here. And also different eyes. The eyes are set further back into the skull. If this was the same sort of thing, they'd be about here on this skull. And also they're a different shape. Obviously, there is a slight superficial similarity between them. But as I've just said for the past few minutes, they are totally different. You can quite clearly see that based on the size and these different features I've shown you on the 3D models, they aren't the same thing. And like I explained in the video from a year ago where I talked about what skull Cubone has, it's very likely just another Cubone skull. With all that said, I'd like to take a moment just to thank you all for watching and remind you to like and subscribe and, of course, turn on the notification bell if you would so wish. I hope this clarified things for everyone who still thought it was a Charizard skull. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.